Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday here in Italy. I wouldn't normally be filming today, but I have a very small window of time while my kid is out at the park, and I don't want to skip on putting my 2 videos up per week. I have a trip coming up this week, so I need to make sure that I kind of get ahead of things. So I'm going to try and get this video out there a little bit quicker. Anyway, I thought I would come on here and talk to you a little bit about myself and my own health journey, and part of the reason why I got so passionate about health in the first place. So as you know, I've said before, I've been married for 18 years this year, I think. Is it 18 or 17? I can't remember. Anyways, it's 17 or 18. Don't tell my husband. So we have a 5-year-old, as I said. So you can do the math and see that it took us a really, really long time, right? I always had some issues. Now I'm going to just put a little disclaimer out there. This video might be a little TMI, especially for the men. So if you're not into hearing about, cycles and, all of that stuff, it's not for you. This video is not for you. This video is for other women who have gone through this, or women who are going through something similar, and who might have problems with their own cycles and so forth. I always suffered with really, really painful periods. It was so bad that it was bad. It was so bad that growing up, I'd cry every month when the date was coming close. I begged God, I prayed to God, like, either let me die, don't let me live like this, let me die. I would have like 2-3 days of just, real pain, very bad pain. When I got older, even after I got married, I kind of stuck it, I did the whole, went to the gynecologist, and they would tell you everything's fine, there's nothing wrong. So I did take the pill for quite a lot of years, from the age of 17 until we wanted to try having a baby. And I remember getting off the pill being so scared, because I thought, oh my gosh, if I'm going to get off the pill and now all the pain is going to come back. So I was super nervous going off the pill. And when I got off the pill, it was bad. It was bad. And I remember praying, God, let me get pregnant right away, because I can't do this pain. And I even said to my husband, like, if I'm not having a baby, what is the point of all of this? And I was going to, I even considered a complete hysterectomy. I thought, well, if this isn't working, and, time went by, month after month after month, and all the pain. And I kept thinking, well, if this is not going to work and I'm not going to have any kids, I need to, just take it out. I was considering a hysterectomy, a complete hysterectomy. Because the pain was that bad, and I just didn't want to live like that. I think a couple of years in, we went to the first infertility hospital. I think after a couple of years, after a year or maybe 2, we went to the first fertility hospital, and they said everything's fine. Oh, we can start IVF. And I thought, that's strange. I was only like 25. I'm like, if everything's fine, why are you sending me to do IVF already? So I refused the first time. More months went by. Another year went by, and I went back to another clinic, and this time they said the same thing. And they're like, oh, everything looks fine, so let's start IVF. And I said, well, if you think everything's fine, why are you offering IVF? Why don't I just try naturally? But it didn't make any sense to me. I thought, well, if everything's fine, why do I need IVF? So what's happening? And they had no real answers for me. More years went by. I can't even tell you how many more years went by. It's a blur. Quite a few years went by. Life happened. We moved to a different city in Milan. And while we were here, we had a lot of work to do. We started work and all of that. And let me just say right here, like, I understand the pain of waiting to have a child is no joke. So if you know anybody going through that, do know that it can be very painful. You live your life, you do your you have life, right? I mean, you have things to do. You live your life, but sometimes that pain comes, you know, it's like grief. So you don't live in it every second of every day, but sometimes it does come. It comes up again. Anyway, so went through that, and then finally, after I don't know, about a year, 2 years after getting established in the city, we went to another clinic, but this time we were in the north of Italy, and we found a really good clinic. The very first doctor who looked at my older test results and so forth, she looked through my old file. Right away, she thought, no, this doesn't look right, and she sent me to do a 3D ultrasound, which was interesting because they discovered a whole bunch of so many issues. They discovered that I had my uterus had the accepted, so it was cut in half pretty much. So it had a wall in the middle. I had fibroids, and I had fibroids, a septum. I had cysts on the ovaries. Anyway, basically after that, they sent me to surgery, and it was a very intensive surgery. It was a very invasive surgery. I stayed in bed for 3 months. It took me another 3 months before I was able to do very much. So 6 months before I went back to work, and then it was an entire year from the surgery before I was allowed to even try for a baby. So when they did the surgery, they found stage 4 endometriosis. You know, made sense. So very, very painful. I had, a lot of scarring and a lot of adhesions from that. And I had, some pretty big ovarian cysts. I think there were 4. And I had 8 fibroids, I think, all a few centimeters big, and the septum, which they took out. So anyway, big surgery, did the surgery, recovered from the surgery, and then after the surgery, I had to do, after I think 6 months or so, I had to do an induced menopause, because they didn't want all of the endometriosis and everything to come back, so they were suppressing all of the hormones so I could heal and not be regrowing all of that. Once I was fully healed and I did 3 months of induced menopause, I went to IVF. Now here's when I get a little bit, see, if I had known a lot of things I knew today, I probably would have never gone through all of that. I'm sure that I would have, taken care of things myself, or at least tried. I don't think I would have done surgery, but no point thinking all of that. I went through surgery, went through a lot of hormones and injections, and especially the menopause injections were a nightmare. They came at me with needles that big, like thick ones. And anyways, the nurse had to come home and do that for me once a week. Was it once a week, or I can't remember. I think it was once a week. Anyway, after doing that, I was allowed to try IVF. So I had to do IVF, at least following what the doctors were saying. I had to do IVF. I couldn't just, have a cycle again and keep trying. They wanted me to be pregnant as soon as possible after healing. And they didn't want me to have, one period after another, in the fear of having more endometriosis and more cysts and all of that regrowing back, and then just being at square one. So we did IVF. I understand the moral implications and the controversy around IVF in Christianity, but I'm super hesitant to make a judgment on other people's decisions when it comes to that, because you don't know. I think, you just don't know. You don't know their heart. You don't know what's going on with them medically. You just don't know. I think, just, keep your judgment. Keep your judgment. When it comes to that, I say, pray for people. I say, do you. If somebody, you do you. You do you. Leave them to God. Let God be the judge. And God forbid anybody judge children who are born through IVF. No, leave that. That's not, God is still the maker of life. So you can do anything you want in a petri dish, but there is no life being breathed in it if God did not intend it to be breathed into it. So that's up to him. Anyway, I won't go too much into that. That's not the point of this video. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about where that brought me later on. So after going through all of that, and I went and did my first IVF try, and after doing I only tried once, and there was one little tiny egg. So if you know anything about going through IVF, they usually want you to have, they want you to hold a whole bunch. They want you to have like 8, 9, 10, 11, I don't even know. There was only one, and it was like not really growing, and it was very small, and they're like, that's not great, but do you want to go ahead and try anyways, since we got this far, and since we don't want you to have to go through another cycle. So I said, yeah, go ahead, try. So they took out that one tiny egg, fertilized that one tiny egg, put that one little egg in me after 3 days, and I was pregnant. So I was super grateful that I didn't have to think about, freezing eggs, or should I, I didn't have to go through all of that. It was one egg, and I was pregnant, and that was it. So my daughter was born in 2019. Going through all of that can be quite a challenge. It's a lot to process. Throughout all of it, throughout all of that, from, the beginning of trying, the beginning of starting, all the way through to my daughter being born, was the period when I was extremely obsessed with health and healthy eating and how the body works, of course, because I was learning a lot about hormones and how things happen. And when I was thinking of having another baby, my daughter was, I was thinking about it right away, but let's say she was about 2 maybe, or 3. So we went back to the clinic, and we tried once, we tried twice, and we went third time. Each time I had no response to the injections, 0 response. I had no eggs coming up. They did tests. They said my AMH levels were super low, which means you have very low ovarian reserve. So you have no eggs, basically, just to put it in simple terms. So you don't have any more eggs, or if you do, they're very few. And if there are very few, they're very low quality. So this is not happening. At that point, I was starting to lose my periods. So I would skip like 3 months, 4 months. If I was eating a little better, I might have like 1 or 2 in a row. And anyways, it was all up and down all over the place. And I kind of blamed a lot on all the hormones and the surgery that I had done, because the surgery also kind of damaged one of my ovaries. And it seemed as though that ovary never recovered. It seemed, we can't know 100%, but it seemed as though that one was damaged, and there was never any eggs seen on it again. So that ovary, I probably only had one working. Anyway, so we did those tests. They said, no, you have very low reserve. It's not possible. So the third time, the clinic basically sent me home, saying, no, there's no hope for you. Well, not exactly like that. They didn't say it exactly like that. But basically they said, at this point, your chances are so low that like they're the same. They're the same if you do it with us, or if you just go home and try naturally. Like, your chances are so low. It's not impossible, because, even women who are in menopause, or pre-menopause, could spontaneously get pregnant all of a sudden, by a miracle. It's not impossible, but the chances are so low that they wouldn't take me on anymore. So they sent me home, and of course, I grieved that day. I can't tell you how much. That was a hard day. It was a really hard day. And I remember, I'm going to share this little thing with you because I'm going to share this one thing because I'm a huge advocate for YouTube and for the things that people share with each other that can be so beneficial, and there's so much out there. But there was this one girl, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of her, but her song really touched me. So she went on, it was the song It's Okay by Nightbird. It was the song It's Okay. I think it was Nightbird. Anyway, this girl that was dying of cancer and went on, what was it called? Gosh, I'm sorry, I don't really watch TV or anything. America's Got Talent, or was it? I think it was America's Got Talent. Anyway, she went on there and shared a song, and it was her whole attitude, of course, and the way that she, it was the way that she kept her spirit, her dignity, her love of other people, her hope, and didn't focus on the bad thing. And like, still, it wasn't that it was so bad to grieve for the things that were not okay, but that was not all of it. That was not her whole life. So her song really touched me. So I went and listened to that song, of course, cried all day long. But then after that, I gave it to God, and that was at my like lowest point. And I said, okay, there's nothing else that the doctors can do. I cannot force it anymore, because that's what it felt like. I was forcing I was forcing having another kid. It was in my hands. It was in my control, right? And I thought, okay, it's time to give up the control, leave it to God. And so I said, here, there's nothing I can do with this. So I handed it over to him. I said, it's your will if you want me to have another kid or you don't. And I said, show me where you want me to go from here on in. And it was really hard, because it's really hard to hand over control when you want something so bad, Anyway. That's still hard sometimes. Anyway, moving on. I didn't mean to cry in this video. Anyway. So, handed that to God, and I said, where do I go now? And, from another point of view, it was a relief too, because that was hard. It was hard going through 3 rounds of IVF. I dealt with it pretty well while I was going through it, because it was like one day at a time, I didn't focus too much on it. Like, okay, I have to do an injection right now. Do the injection, forget about it, move on with my day. I have an appointment, do my appointment, move on with my day. I had other things to do, so I'm doing other things. I'm not focusing too much on things. I'm trying to take things one day at a time. So it wasn't too bad. I didn't have such a difficult time going through IVF. I think the hard times are when you're waiting. The hard times are when you're hoping. The hard times are when the doctor says, nope, nothing. And then you have to go home and wonder, am I ever going to have this? I just want to point out, because sometimes, people do say, oh, well, you're so lucky that you had one kid at least. I'm just going to say something about that. It can be as painful hoping for your second as it can hoping for your first. So, it's not to blame people for saying that. I mean, it's okay. I don't get offended about that. It doesn't bother me in that moment. I think it, but it's not a big deal. I mean, I get it. You know, we don't always know what to say to people who grieve for whatever reason they're grieving. So that's okay. Um, but I wanted to point it out because I think people don't realize how it can be to want a child and not be able to. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever. We all have our dreams of the kind of family we want. So it can be hard when you don't get that. Anyway, we give it to God and that's okay. Um, I allow myself to be sad. Um, but I gave it to him to decide. And I think that's hard. I think that's sacrifice, right? You give up something that you want because you trust that he knows better than you. And you trust him that he'll you trust him that he's going to take care of you and he'll have a plan and a purpose for you. So no matter what the thing is, I think that following him means giving him those things. So sometimes I grieve and that's okay. It's not that often. Right now I'm talking about it a little bit more candidly than I've ever talked about it actually. But um it's okay to grieve. It's okay to tell him, because I do that too. You know, tell him how you feel. He knows. That's okay. And he's a comfort to you. But I totally get how hard it is to hand over the control. It's so hard. It's so hard. There's so much fear behind that, you know? But yeah, in the end, you trust him and you hand it over to him and you trust that he knows better than you. He knows better than us. So I handed it over to him and I said, okay, show me where do I go from here? And there was relief because me holding on to it so tight, I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I was making a mess of things. And I certainly made a mess of my health because in pushing, and pushing, you know, I did it once, I did it twice, I did it 3 times until the clinic sent me home. And they're like, no, we're not doing this anymore. I had to go home and do something different. And, you know, when I was over the grief and the prayer and I was able to hand it over to God, that's when he showed me the my path. And it took a while. Let me just say that it wasn't instant, but I knew that it was right to hand it over to him. And then after I handed it to him, that's when he began to show me something different. So we changed, well, everything changed, but we changed work. I didn't change work. We abandoned work, and then by faith I'm stepping into this new thing. So at the moment I am definitely taking care of my health, and there will be more on that. I want to keep you updated because I'll keep you updated in that in the next video. But I wanted to share that sometimes from pain, God brings solutions. He brings something different that we don't expect. And sometimes something bigger than we could have imagined, or bigger than we realized. And it's, there's that verse in the Bible that I have to find it. I'm going to like insert it, that says that you lay your life down. I'll put it in here anyway. Um so I needed to do that, and I think that's the Christian walk in the end. And we don't know what comes out of that. I think that we can bless so many people, and we will be blessed in ways we don't know. And I still, hope and pray that he does want to bless me with another child. I realize that I'm older and all of that, but I'm also learning that when it comes to health, he has a lot in store for us. So I can't focus on what the doctors say, and I can't focus on um, the things that people think about age and all of that. Oh, well, you're already 40 and you're in menopause. Like, yeah, so if God wants to breathe life, he will breathe life, right? New life. That's not up to me. It's not up to the doctor. So my daughter was meant to come into this world, and she was meant to be here. She's here. God used that situation for her to be here. Um, he didn't have to let that work, right? That egg didn't have to come about. I mean, I had such low chances to begin with. So I know that she's here because of him. And, that was God's grace. But if more kids come, it's not any less or more possible for him, you know? So I trust him. And in the meantime, in all of this, it has been amazing. I wouldn't trade it. You go through so much pain, but you don't know why. You don't know what God will do with that pain when you give it to him, right? So, yeah, I think I'm done sharing. That's kind of hard. It was kind of hard, but um, God sees your pain. You need to get to that point where you're able to trust him and hand it over. He knows your pain, but he also knows how he can use that pain for good, for you and for others around you. And so, yeah, that's about it. I think that's the message of this video, because I wasn't sure what it would be when I got here, but there we go. Yeah, this is quite a journey. But yeah, I'm glad you're here sharing it with me. I'm gonna be brave and post this anyways. Like, who likes crying in front of people? And now I'm like here crying in front of who knows how many people, but that's okay. Um, that's okay. We'll allow ourselves to be a little embarrassed. So whatever. If I can even reach one other person, one woman who's going through a tough time, so be it. God knows that it's hard to even watch other people who go through this, because I feel it. I know. I know that pain so well. So yeah, if this helps that one person, I'm completely grateful. And I think that if we know how much our stories and how much our sacrifices can have an impact on others, I think we more happily go through them. So that's, the good side. There's always two sides to things. Yeah. Okay. I better go because my kid's gonna come back soon, and I have to do lunch. All right. Well, thank you for being here. I hope that, well, not so much that you maybe enjoyed this video, but I hope that it touched somebody out there. All right. Bye-bye. I just wanted to add, maybe see like the reason why all the pain comes up talking. It's easier to talk to you, but not be looking at your face. So it's hard to share pain. It's hard to share your own pain when you're seeing other people's reaction to it. So when I'm telling people my story in person, I tend to keep it real easy in a sense on them. So I don't, it doesn't come up, you know? So it's interesting because I never even explored the depth of my own pain in this. I didn't realize. I thought, wow, I take this so well. I don't cry, and I don't, you know, I can talk about it with people. I can laugh about it with people. But I think that in the end, it's because I wasn't seeing. It's because I think in the end, it's not looking at my pain reflected in the other person's eyes. I was avoiding it. So I was talking about it, but not in a way that I would need to look at it, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes sense. But when it's just me, you know, talking to a camera for the moment, I know I'm telling you, but I'm telling the camera, it's not so difficult. I don't have to see you cry. So maybe you'll cry on your own, but I don't have to look at it. So it comes out much more sincerely. Is that a word? Sincerely? Sincerely. Whoops. Sorry. I have a lot of editing to do sometimes. Anyways, okay, I'm going. Bye.